Joining me today, we have John Blackmon, creator of CenarioVR and the CTO of ELB Learning. And we also have a special guest, Adam Sidwell. He's the founder and studio head at Future House Studios. They're doing some really cool stuff with immersive learning and other things that you'll get to see later on in the webinar. So without further ado, John, I will let you get started.
Thank you very much, Steph. Okay, first, let's start by talking about why we're here. I mean, we're discussing new technology and changing the way we do things. We've all been creating content the same way for years now, and we're good at it. Why do we need to change? Why do we need to look at new things like immersive learning and VR? Well, for one thing, there's something we're probably all too familiar with that is very true in today's world, and that is the forgetting curve. With traditional passive training, users, they just don't remember what they're teaching them. If you look at something, there's like a 20% retention after a week. So as I'm sitting here presenting to you, a week from now, you'll remember about 20% of it. So that is just, it's been a fact. It's been a fact for a long time. It's been proven out over many years. Attention rate is another major issue. You lose a student's attention after only 10 to 15 minutes of training. And it's not just the younger generation. We're all multitasking at a rate never seen before. So when your student is reading through course material, at the same time, they get an incoming email, a Slack message, a Facebook notification, and a text message. You basically lost them. We're fighting against more distractors than we've ever had to in the past. The engagement rate is also suffering with traditional passive content. Even your most academic learners aren't getting all they can. What's happened is that the bar has been raised on the kinds of media that will capture your students' attention and will get them involved in your content. They all have access to captivating content from a number of social media sites, games, or video sharing sites, and their learning needs to be on par with that. We need to take it to that next level. So how do we solve these issues? Well, immersive learning gets 100% of the user's attention. Trust me, once you put that headset on, you are completely involved in what you're doing. You're not checking your phone for updates while in VR. And that forgetting curve, you can forget it. Studies have shown an almost 80% retention rate up to a year after training with VR. And that's because of the way you learn. You actually learn by doing, you get a much more, it's stored in a different area of your brain. And so you just retain it longer. And with immersive learning, you're always engaging the student because by definition, it's a very interactive environment. When created well, it delivers a gamified experience that really draws the student in. And fortunately, we have a solution for that here at ELB Learning. It's CenarioVR. So CenarioVR is a SaaS-based virtual reality authoring tool created specifically for immersive learning. You create content by beginning with 360 videos and images, which become scenes in your scenario. Then you use a familiar, almost PowerPoint-like interface to add interactive elements, which allow you to create your experience. You can start with something as simple as a facility tour or introduction, and take it as far as a drag and drop part assembly with 3D models, spatial sounds, and motion paths around the scene. And what about distributing that content? Well, CenarioVR itself is built to host VR. And so wherever the student logs into CenarioVR, be it on the web, on their mobile device, or on their headset, they can take the content and have the results tracked. This is key, so you can dip your toes into immersive learning by starting it at any level you wish. If your users will not have access to a headset, that's fine. They can take the same content on the web. You can also publish content off of CenarioVR and put it directly on your LMS. CenarioVR publishes to SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004, CMI5, and XAPI, and each of those produces a zip file with the proper manifest in an entirely encapsulated format. No need to call home. You can even publish it to HTML5 and host it on your own website and run it from any web server. And finally, you can actually create courses that utilize traditional authoring tools like Lectora, Storyline, or Captivate, and just have part of the course be an interactive 360 experience. So if you have a traditional course and you need to add in a section that really exercises a student's spatial awareness, you can mix in an immersive section with it, with your other content. So that all sounds great. But what kind of scenarios are people creating today? What are they using it for? So we'll start with our first example today, which is the Vanderbilt University School of Nursing. Vanderbilt uses VR training to train their nursing students on ultrasound equipment. Traditionally, that training on ultrasound devices, it required a lot of resources. You can only really effectively train one teacher to maybe 2 or 3 student ratio before the student can't really see what's going on. And it also requires a person acting as a patient. Someone has to be on the table as a patient. Plus you have the ultrasound machine itself can be very expensive. Vanderbilt actually went through a long process of trying to use traditional e-learning tools and video to create their training, but they just couldn't get it to a level where it could be an effective substitute for the live simulations. They discovered the possibilities of immersive learning and quickly crafted a course that covered all facets of working with an ultrasound device, from setting up the machine to all of the different exams that they were going to be trained on. Nursing students now go through their training virtually and only get to the machine when they are testing out on the course. Through this technology, Vanderbilt not only solved many of the device and staffing issues, they realized an almost $600,000 savings projected over a 5-year runtime for the training initiative using VR training over their traditional training method. So let's take a quick look at that course to get an idea of what they actually created. So this is the CenarioVR interface. We are loading up the CenarioVR editor. As you see, it is SaaS-based, runs inside your browser. You have that full 360 view. I'm going to put it into preview mode, so we'll just run it really quick, and I'll be talking over the instructor a little bit here. But we're going to go in and look at the right upper quadrant. So in here, she goes through the same thing that she would be doing in a normal training session, except you get a one-on-one. The camera is placed in the best view of where the student would be, as if you had one-on-one training. You also get a great close-up of the actual screen of the ultrasound device at the same time down here, and that is completely synchronized with what's going on, as well as a top-down view, so you're looking straight down. So you kind of get all these just by looking a little bit side to side. You select where we put it in for that, and we would put it right there. You can also do overlays. So if we want to know where things are, if we want to know, in relation to where things are, if we want to show, the kidney and the liver and where these things are in the rib cage, that'll give you an idea of where they are located to those other items. So you can get anatomical overlays at the same time and give yourself an idea of what you're looking at when you're going in there. And you can take those on or off at any time. So it's kind of helpful, a bit more helpful actually than you can get even seeing it live and in person. In a moment, she's going to be going in and contacting onto here. She'll be putting it on, and you'll see it shows the screen. And apparently that is supposed to represent this. I don't know, but it does. I showed it to some nurses. They swear to me it's exactly right. So I guess it must be okay. But you really get training on the machine, and they go through each different part of the machine as you go through, so you can really see what's going on. Okay, for our next example, we're going to talk about Wincanton. So Wincanton is a leading supply chain company in the UK, and they wanted to create training on the 3 situations they identify as their biggest risk areas in warehouses and during deliveries. So they were cage falls, that's where a rack of goods falls off a delivery truck, dropped trailers, and that's when a trailer is improperly hooked up to its cab, and red light pull-ups, and that's when a driver leaves a loading area before the load is secured. So they had tried training on these topics before, but they really never got improvements in the rates of the incidents. So they decided to try immersive learning for something completely new. The training was just delivered via LMS, just using immersive 360 videos and interaction. What they found was they experienced a much higher completion rate with the new training. People were actually more interested in it. It was just a nicer way to do it. And they actually had a lower level of incidents once the training was rolled out. So for that, I actually have a video of the training. So let's go ahead and roll that video.
As part of our culture of care and investing in the safety of our people, we asked Video Interact to produce an interactive 360.
And I just realized that I am not sharing my sound, so I'm going to do that right now and try it again.
Steve filmed VR courses to cover the 3 major accidents and incidents that occur in our transport operation: cage falls, dropped trailers, and red light pull-offs.
These are all scenes from the actual...
Each topic needed a narrative that would reflect the daily experiences of our drivers, office and warehouse staff, all of whom play a part in preventing these incidents. The courses had to be deliverable in group training sessions as well as being available on mobile devices for individuals to watch by themselves. Filming in 360 allowed us to create that feeling of being in the midst of the action in the warehouses and bays of a busy distribution centre. And, as everything was filmed at the Thameside depot using our own people, and a friendly supermarket manager when we filmed a sequence for the Cage Falls course, the course has real authenticity. Viewers are given opportunities to do quizzes, spot hazards, and consider the characters' situations, making the courses much more than simple passive sets of instructions. This is in-depth, focused, reflective learning. And, of course, the great thing about having a filmed resource in a business as geographically diverse as ours is that it can be seen at any time by anybody if they feel they need to refresh their learning, or if the business feels that a particular topic needs a boost.
So one of the keys there was that they actually just used the real people that work there. They didn't have to go hire a bunch of actors. They actually got to use the people that actually were in the facility doing the thing. People were thrilled to do it. They got to be part of the training. They got to become actors for a period of time. They even, as I mentioned, they even got somebody that worked in the supermarket that did not work for Wincanton that wanted to be part of it and join in. These are the kind of things you can do. You can film it on location, on site, and get that real feel of authenticity in there. You can actually create training that feels like it's real because you're filming what is actually happening. So the National Health Services in the UK is one of our largest clients, and their most recent scenario is used at the University Hospital of Leicester to train medical students on protocols and treatment for stroke patients. They had a serious issue after the pandemic hit, and they couldn't bring the medical students into the hospital to train them, but they needed to graduate doctors faster than ever. So they created a virtual simulation of the training they normally provided those students in a live sim. The stroke team actually just play themselves going through exactly the same protocols as they would in a real life admission. There are questions and interactions along the way, much like they would be asking the students questions in the live sim. And the entire scenario is timed because just like in real life, time is critical. The whole course was filmed in one day. It was edited in just 4 days and built into CenarioVR in just 5 days. It's just 2 working weeks from camera roll to completion. They were able to get all those students back in with the same quality training they had before, but performed in a virtual environment. They actually now currently use this as their training because even though they could get back in the hospital, this is what they now use for their training. So again, I've got that here. So the stroke scenario. In this one, there are 3 sections. I just have one of the sections here. They were able to provide everything they had within their scenario. But you go through and they have multiple sections, different kinds of scenarios they have to go through. You can look at scans or actually go through the scenario. In the scenario itself, in this one, you are in the room with a patient. There's a lot, as there would be at all times, there's a lot of things going on. So you're kind of looking around and observing everything that's happening in the room. You have a nurses talking about the patient and the patient's situation. At the same time, the doctor is looking and examining something going on the screen, call some people over to look at the scan because there's an issue with the scan. This brings up the scan. We see that the scan, there's definitely an issue going on there. As that's going on, this nurse is talking to the patient, realizing there's a problem. We end up with close-ups, and then you have to deal with some of the situations that are going on. She called the other ones over. You are just a person in the room that's experiencing this along with everyone else. So just kind of a neat way to go through the training as if you're being trained on it live and you go through all the procedures.
A lot of midline shift, quite a bit of edema.
Okay. So our next example is Morris Road construction. Morris Road needed a way to consistently show their staff and contractors the standards that they would approach each task on site. So what they did is they created a suite of linear and interactive scenarios, and they were designed to be mobile and realistic to test the viewer. They started with just the information they normally had in their standards documents and a bunch of PowerPoint presentations. And that actually formed the basis of 17 different scenarios that they produced. All the scenarios were shot on working sites using Morris Row employees and contractors for added authenticity. They covered topics such as access and egress, concrete excavations, working at height, manual handling, and noise and vibration. So the interactivity and gameplay in the 360 VR helped to really engage and motivate the learners. They had leaderboards, badges, branching scenarios, and more, and they encouraged people to keep learning and gave them a sense of achievement as they did. So in a typical on-site induction, the scenarios are shown to the contractors, and then they have to take an online test on a tablet. So all this is done on-site on a tablet. And using those tablets with real footage, they help viewers to quickly engage with the learning. And just a few frames, they understood where they are and what they are required to do. Failure to pass the test denied them access to the site. They could not go on the site until they got it through the content and passed the test at the end. But when they pass the test, that's recorded digitally, and then the individual is free to work on their specialism on the site. They stored all the results in a digital record, so they created a huge resource for compliance. And in the process, they saved time and money because they used to have people out there training those people live on time. So for Morris Row, I also have a video. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because you have all of the sounds that go to an industrial site. Now, this is just a recording of the actual course. As you're poking around through the course and you're going and looking, you'll be answering questions.
Always ensure that vehicles and pedestrians are separated by physical
videos
boundaries.
that come inside of you. Kind of gives you an idea of the congestion and the amount of things going on the site all at the same time.
And somebody ready to receive a load before you begin lifting operations.
Showed you the two examples of the kind of questions they would go through on the test. All right. So Morris Row. All right, and then we have Service Titan. Service Titan had an issue that we would all love to have. They had rapid growth. And with that comes rapid hiring. And they needed a way to onboard new recruits and also have that used as a part of the recruitment process in order to show the company in the best light possible. So they used CenarioVR to create a video walkthrough of their corporate offices. Pretty simple, actually, but they did a good job of it in order to show the people and introduce them to everything. Prospective new employees are introduced to the facility and to key staff through VR to encourage them to discover all it's offered in the facility and to build social context for their new team members. Again, I can show that very quickly. Just to kind of show what a well-done corporate walkthrough and introduction can be.
Welcome to Service Titan and to our virtual reality experience. I'm James.
And I'm Jason, and this is our headquarters in Glendale, California.
We hope you enjoy this experience, and remember,
this is VR, so feel free to look around, explore, and enjoy your surroundings.
And when you're ready, go ahead and start the tour.
So this just walked through the offices. In each room, he gives you a little introduction.
Welcome to the reception area. If you need help, have questions, if you need to
throughout,
find the conference room, someone, your mail, or supplies, this is the place to start.
iPad,
if you look around, you'll see some cool things you can find out more about. For example, check out the iPad and find out what that's used for.
You can bring that up.
Anyone visiting Service Titan has to sign in, and they can do this on the iPad. They'll just enter their name.
To get to really know the office. Okay. So for our last example, we have Komatsu Mining. So Komatsu Mining faced a challenge with factory acceptance testing by their customers. Normally, when a machine is being built, or even several times during the building process, customers have to fly out to the manufacturing site to inspect the machines, and they're presented with a full functionality test. These are very big, very expensive machines. But when the pandemic hit, they had issues with travel and logistics and getting customers to their facilities. So the world's not going to stop mining anytime soon. So they need to come up with a way to process that virtually. So they did it through CenarioVR virtual machine tours, followed by live streams with the customer. So how did they do it? They just used a consumer grade 360 camera and used it to take images all around the machine, including open up all the cabinets and inspecting every area of the machine. They then used CDR to put all these images together and make them interactive, so the user could navigate themselves around the machine and take their own custom tour. They did this before the live stream, so the customer could familiarize themselves with the machine and develop any questions they wanted to ask during the live stream. So the new methodology has really helped streamline the entire process and has now become the standard for how they do business, even after travel has now opened up. This has saved them immense amount of money in travel and time for their production. And for that, we have just a video. I'm not able to share everything that goes on because there's corporate secrets involved, but they were able to share this machine with me. That you actually just walk through the machine. That looks like a really big, really expensive machine. You go through and you get to open up all the doors, the gates, navigate around the machine to see what they have. And so the customer gets to see the machine, see all the different parts of the machine, kind of get through an exercise if they had some with pop-up information, although we was not able to share that. Some with video, again, not able to share that. But this just gives you an idea of what they're doing for an introduction to the machine. Okay. All right, so these have all been excellent examples of where you can go today using rapid VR authoring tool like CenarioVR. But what if you want to go deeper into VR? What if you need to have precise placement or cooperative multi-user simulations, or even heading into the metaverse? For that, I'd like to introduce Adam Sidwell from Future House Studios to talk about these possibilities and to show us some examples of them. Adam.
Well, hello. Thank you, John. Nice to be here with all of you and to talk to you about the metaverse. John, I think that was a great introduction on all of the training and learning that's happening in some of the methodologies. It's an exciting vertical, and the use cases for VR are incredibly effective, just like you outlined. Let me talk today about I'm going to talk about the evolution of VR and where it's going, and the kinds of things that are happening in the space that are a little bit new, the things that are new and innovative, and things that we might not expect, so that we can have a framework for where things are going and how it's going to apply to us. So let me share my screen here. Here we are talking about, let's see, can everyone see that?
Yep, we can see that. Looks good.
Wonderful. Okay, awesome. All right, so the evolution of VR from the office to the metaverse. First, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. Adam Sidwell. I was a technical director for film and television for a long time, working on movies like Tron that you see here. This is a demo reel that I use to put together to explain what I do, and the kind of work, the actual shots that I've worked on, making Transformers, Pirates of the Caribbean, Marvel films, and a number of franchises across the film industry, all the way back to iRobot, which was the first film that I worked on. And I worked at places like Digital Domain, which is really known for their digital humans, including Thanos in Avengers. They've mastered the art of creating realistic digital human faces, which started off with Benjamin Button and Tron, both of which I had the privilege of working on. And then I went to work at Weta Digital for Peter Jackson in New Zealand, Industrial Light and Magic for George Lucas, working on various film franchises. And it was an exciting journey, and I learned the ins and outs of how to create digital content. Then a few years ago, I switched that up to find new challenges in the real-time arena, which is virtual reality, including things that are rendered in real time, that are completely interactive, that we can immerse ourselves into and discover new worlds by being a part of those new worlds. One of the places that I worked at was as an animation director within, where they're creating some cutting-edge virtual reality and augmented reality, which hadn't been seen before. And a lot of what is exciting about these places is, as they're doing it for pure entertainment purposes, they're pushing the envelope, and that then trickles down to being able to be used in some of these training courses, and it evolves the way that we work. So I want to show you this. This is a picture of our humble office at Future House Studios. It's made out of bricks. It is a place that is less than 1,000 square feet. And this is significant because the way that we work in the evolution of our office space, it looks something like this. We did a 3D model of the office. We planned out where we could put furniture and things, and we're sort of testing that out. Now, Future House Studios is growing rapidly. And in fact, we just moved into this new office space about 6 months ago. We have, about 30 to 40 artists and engineers, but they can't all fit in this little office space. And, we're all used to remote work and these kinds of scenarios, but this is a company and an office working environment that was truly born out of the pandemic and therefore born in the metaverse. So we designed things such that we can hire talent all over the world. We're located in Pleasant Grove, Utah, not far from Epic Games or Warner Brothers Avalanche. And we've hired artists from Los Angeles to New York to San Francisco and all over the world, as we find people even in Istanbul, Japan, Brazil, as we find people that are talented and that can work to complete the different types of products we have. So we are hiring engineers, we're hiring modelers, texture artists, character riggers, UX designers, UI designers, all these people that can help create the content, the kind of content that we create. So with that, this kind of virtual office really works. But where our next stage is going, that we'll actually take that model of the office, make it available so that in your Oculus headset, people from around the world who want to feel connected with what's going on here at the hub can log on, jump into their headset, and be present in the office no matter where they are in the world. And we found that, it's a simple thing, but that can help people feel like they're part of the team. We actually even put this office as an NFT on the blockchain so that, and it was the first ever one to do that, because we really, really are pushing this technology in the metaverse. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've been working on and how they are some of the innovations that you're seeing in VR. Okay, so this is one of my favorite characters of all time, Optimus Prime. I nerded out as a kid, being able to play Transformers, and recently we were able to take the Unreal Engine and create our own cityscape and model and character, light it, shade it, and put it into virtual reality. This is something that's rendered about 2 to 3 frames a second. Now, in VR, you've got to have things rendering at usually about 90 frames per second, but you have to do it twice because you have to do it for both eyes. A lot of times you want to push 120 frames per second, and I'll show you why. So in this experience, this will give you an idea of what it is all about. So this experience was, we created about 8 minutes of content, 8 to 9 minutes of content in VR in a completely customized environment with about 46 unique character assets, and all designed to the spec of Hasbro having to look like Transformers. What I think is unique about this experience is the use case for something that is familiar to a lot of us and those of us who like to geek out about this kind of stuff. But it's a familiar property, but it was deployed in over 145 locations across the country. So one of the things that the VR industry faces is mass adoption and the ability to be able to get in there and have an easy use case to be able to put the headset on, something to compel us to put that headset on and jump in and try. So one of the things that works is in this kind of arcade environment, you go there, you get food, you have drinks, you're enjoying yourself and you're playing the games. And then you see this thing over here in the corner, this simulator that's moving around. It looks something like this. So you can see from this is a motion control ride that's coordinated with the virtual reality happening in the Unreal Engine and inside the headsets. So that sled you see there, I call it the sled, is it will tilt 25 degrees in either direction in roll and in pitch. So it'll tilt forward and backward. And what's interesting about this is as these motion control rides or the envelope is being pushed, it can create realistic scenarios that immerse us even further into the environments which we want to experience. So in this case, we had, and this is a lot of fun, right? But I want you to think about how this can apply to training and learning, because in this case, you're being launched by a transformer, Bumblebee, up into the sky as he throws you into the sky and then catches you over here, and you're feeling all those feelings of the motion and the lurching of your stomach. It feels like a roller coaster. Now, what's interesting is we can achieve this effect without actually having to translate our players in space at all, because the simple suggestion of acceleration by tilting forward quickly and then moving the world in VR gives that effect that we're actually moving through space. And it's kind of exciting and compelling. And I love nothing more than taking people over and having them try the ride and then talking with them about it afterward and seeing what they experience as they go through it. And it's really interesting because people can feel all sorts of these effects. In fact, to the extent that we had simultaneous levels going on at the same time, where you have one player is on a certain level where they're with Bumblebee being thrown up in the air, and another player is actually dropping down into a pit in a completely different environment. And so the takeaway from this is that you can simulate multiple types of environments. It's almost like multidimensional, where you can simulate multiple things happening with the same movement of the chair, because remember, both of those players are next to each other and the same motion is happening at the same time. So tilting forward can mean falling, but it can also mean being thrown up into the air. And so we can see that the power of suggestion that we can use inside of these experiences is going to help us maintain that learning and that memory from that experience. And by the way, stop me, put questions in the chat if you have anything you want to know about or you want to comment on. Then
we do have one question about that example from a big Transformers fan who wants to know if it will ever find its way to the Oculus or if he needs to go to Dave & Buster's.
Good question. Okay, I'm glad you asked that question. It's actually probably most likely never going to be on the Oculus, and I know that can be somewhat disappointing. But you will have to find your way to Dave & Buster's. I'm almost sure there's one near you if you're anywhere in the US or Canada. But I think one of those things, I think this is a little bit significant because with the use cases of VR, we couldn't have that motion control at home, right? You couldn't have that experience of riding next to other players. And so we're seeing that there's different types of experiences being created by going to a location versus being at home. And there's different types of scenarios that we can simulate. So unfortunately, no, it won't be on Oculus, but do go to Dave & Buster's and try it out. And I'm sure that there's going to be some other fun Transformers content coming out for Oculus. So how do we apply this and where do we go for the future? Well, let me talk a little bit about Justin Bieber, Sonic the Hedgehog, and George W. Bush. What do they have all in common? Well, we've actually put all three of these into the metaverse at one time or another. And this is an interesting use case scenario. So first, let me talk about Justin Bieber. So we have, let's see, maybe my video is not coming through here. But looks like we're missing something. Let me see if I can get this to play. Oh, unable to play. All right, we're gonna look this up real quick. Okay, are you still able to see my screen here?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, fantastic. So this was the Justin Bieber virtual experience that went on. We did this for a client called WaveXR. It was interactive. People would log on and they would be able to send comments to Justin, be able to power him up with hearts, give him energy. There was actually a point in the conference where he, in the concert, where he was talking with, let's see if this is going to play some of this. He was actually speaking with the concert goers because they were on webcams, and he was powering an avatar. We'll see it right here through a motion capture suit. He's powering the avatar and speaking with these people on the webcams, and they're able to interact with him. And people are attending this concert from all over the world. This actually was kicking off his world tour, and it was incredible the amount of engagement that was there. You can see that there's buttons for people to push and interact with and be part of that. Now, this wasn't in virtual reality, but it was available in mobile and on web pages. And in the past, Wave has done some of these concerts in virtual reality. And I think you can see a lot of groups that are pushing toward this in the future for these types of experiences where everyone can be together and be part of something. Okay, and again, if you have questions, please send them over and I can answer some of those. So one of the things I think is really unique about VR, and John touched a little bit on this, is the fact that you have presence. You have this feeling of being in the room with somebody. There's a difference between being on a Zoom and being on a VR headset with someone where you have these social cues and also body language cues that even come across in a simplistic VR avatar. There's cues about language, distance, body language, posture, distance from that person, eye contact, where their head's facing, all which help us to determine like who that person is and what their intent is. So for one of our clients, NICE, they hired us to build a metaverse experience where people would actually be present with, this is a lot of their customer base, inside a customized world with George W. Bush, former President George W. Bush, and George Clooney. So this was an exciting thing for us to build as you could navigate through the world. And this gave people a chance to connect, customers of the NICE products to connect and be with each other and interact, hear keynotes, hear different breakout sessions, all within their VR headsets. And this was an incredible event. Then they were addressed by the two Georges, which I think is something that's really exciting. Is like, hey, have we ever seen a US president in the metaverse before this? I don't think we have. I think this is really a first. So there's ways for people to engage and come together even when we're really far apart as groups. And I think that's extremely significant. In fact, we also did this for another company called MX. This was in the middle of the pandemic. They're a fintech company. They had about 550 employees, and they sent VR headsets to each one of the employees and then had them log on. And we built a custom world where they could play and enjoy a keynote from their leadership team. But what was really interesting about it is we littered that place with mini games, snowball fights, shooting hoops in basketball, shooting off rockets. There was a tugboat down in the water that could teleport down to and be on as it floated in the water. So we just had a lot of interesting scenarios occur because people started to play and laugh together. You could see people who hadn't been with each other for a year, and they're in VRs, and you have all these executives laughing their heads off and playing instruments because people tend to let down their guard in virtual reality and be able to engage with each other in a way that they wouldn't normally do. So I'm actually going to skip this one. The future of the office and the future evolution of VR is really manifested well in this Microsoft Mesh. So I'm going to show you this video, and it's going to, I think, jumpstart some of the ways that we can think about how we can interact in a work environment, whether we're remote or present or a combination of the two.
Connection is a spark that gives our lives meaning. It drives us to seek out others who feel the same way.
Okay, why don't you look at that and we'll take a look together. And where would you like me?
To find those who share our views and offer different perspectives.
Sort of that.
Challenge us with new ways of seeing. Deepen our understanding. And enrich our lives. Great things happen when we commit to something bigger than ourselves. Take a closer look at it.
Place this here. Let's see how we go from there, okay?
This sense of collaboration and the feelings of connection it brings excites us.
Hey, you can dine. Move it slightly, okay?
It's yours, David.
We have two planes right now on the same trajectory.
As we put people first, technology fades into the background. It feels like you know about.
Hey, John, what do you think?
We'll be clear from partnership. This changes the way we see the world. Changes the world we see. So that was a great answer. Being creative, stretch the imagination. Morning. Slowly come towards the world without boundaries. Good job.
Yeah.
Slowly bring the world where technology enhances, not limits, humanity. With people front, center, and in the spotlight. The future is here, and here can be anywhere. Introducing Microsoft Mesh.
I think that's pretty amazing how we're mixing realities and being able to become geographically agnostic so that we can accomplish the same work tasks and even more by using these augmented, mixed, and virtual reality technologies. I see we've got a couple of questions that have popped up. Let's see.
Yes, we have, I think, a good one from Rich, who wants to hear from both you and John. I don't know if you saw, there was a recent CNBC article that quoted Phil Libin, the founder, former CEO of Evernote. He says the metaverse is nothing more than a gimmick, and most of the technology credited with being part of the metaverse has been around for years. Do you feel like that's true? Do you feel like metaverse has just become this mysterious buzzword that everyone says to make their products sound cooler? What do you guys think about that?
It's definitely a buzzword. So metaverse has been around for a while. You know, Second Life has been around for a long time, right? So I mean, it's not really good. The interconnectivity of it and the possibilities that you can do with it are what's new, right? There are new pieces. Conceptually, it's not. I mean, Adam, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Oh, John, well, so I love this topic, right? I'm so glad you asked that question because, we have a saying at Future House that we've been building the metaverse since before it was cool. Essentially the technologies for the most part that we are using, that we used 5 years ago before, Mark Zuckerberg dropped the word metaverse in his November keynote and they changed the name to Meta. That's when a lot of this buzz started happening, right? Like this started happening around that point and really gained traction. And there's been a lot of media excitement around this buzzword. But, since 2017, 2016, we've been building virtual reality and building these types of applications. So in that sense, Phil Libin is right. This technology has been around for years. But I think the difference is that we're now, the metaverse is almost like this banner we're holding up. It's like, hey, this is a thing that we're trying to build, and this idea of things actually being interconnected. What you see here in the this Microsoft Mesh, for example, or this idea of having a consistent avatar that you will be able to take from one world to another. That hasn't happened yet. There's some of that's happening with Ready Player Me, but it's a place that we're looking to go toward, right? So the metaverse, in some definitions, is here, but in the grandest definition of what it is and what it could be, it's not here yet. We're incrementally moving toward that. The term metaverse has been around since, I think, 1992. I think that's when Snow Crash was published, which is the Neil Stephenson novel that first coined the term metaverse. And it described, a big street in a city where you put on VR goggles and you walk around and you drop into different clubs and different venues, and each person is represented by an avatar. So in that sense, there's a lot more work to do to go to this metaverse as it is been portrayed in the dreams of Ready Player One or science fiction and fantasy. But what's nice is at least this word encapsulates this idea of interconnectivity and presence and identity.
Awesome. Yeah, so we got to follow up. Thank you, Adam. It sounds like you're saying it's all coming together now.
It's coming together, and it will be coming together for the next several years because there's a lot that we still have to figure out. So
definitely. And then I think this question is probably more for John. Obviously, you both showed many different levels of types of VR content that can be created. From a training perspective, Matthew says he's looking for something more than 360 video, but not quite the example of the Transformer video with the learners in sleds and being tilted around. So, John, do you have any suggestions for tools or ways that he could do something that's like a simulated environment, maybe not utilizing things like Unity? What are some options?
So a true digital twin simulated environment is actually an intelligent object that you're representing. You're twinning something in real life, and that has to have all the properties and things. For that, there's going to be, unless you can find something off the shelf that is the part you're trying to represent, it's going to be a little bit of a code kind of environment. You'd be surprised, as part of the question, it usually said that I'm looking for more than 360 video. There's a lot you can do with that. You can actually put 3D models inside of that 360 video or 360 images and interact with them and have actions and animations inside of 360 video. Those are things that are built with no code, things that you can utilize today. So I think it's integrating a bit more technology into something like a 360 image or video that you can do with a no code solution. Once you get all the way into digital twins, then you are talking about something you're going to have to build in Unreal or Unity or something like that.
All right, thank you. And I know we had a question earlier about headsets, and this is something that we get a lot of the time when we do webinars about VR training. Do you have to have a headset for every single learner, or can they do it on a browser? I think one of the examples you showed, John, you said they used a tablet. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that people are confused about is, oh man, the first thing I think, well, VR, I can't do that. I'm not going to get headsets for everybody. You don't have to, right? So you can take it in a browser, you can take it on a phone and take it on a tablet. And one of the cool things is when you take it on a phone or a tablet, it actually uses the gyroscope within the device so that to look around, you actually move the tablet around up and down. Gives you that immersive, it's like a window to the world kind of thing when you look through it. So it gives you a little bit more immersive level. It's not truly immersive like being in VR, but you can get that level of immersiveness with it on these different devices. So yeah, you can use it on any of those devices plus a headset as well, and just about any headset.
Awesome, thank you. And Adam, the Justin Bieber example you showed, I think you said that wasn't like VR headsets, but still very cool, very immersive, interactive, right? So
yeah, it was viewed through mobile and web browser, and I think one of the reasons is that sometimes people just don't have headsets. If you want to create something that more people can view and can be a part of, then you either have to provide those headsets for them or make another way for them to get in. The George Bush example was also built in AltSpace, and what's nice about AltSpace is that you can view that either in a headset or from a web browser. And so it basically, everyone's always talking about accessibility for VR, and that means, how do I get into it without a headset, right? The thing that everybody has now is the mobile phone. So if we can build some things that work in those cases, because we want wide adoption of them, then it's best to go to the devices that people already have.
Exactly. Yes. And I think a lot of our clients, as John said, have used mobile devices instead of headsets for everyone. I think the Vanderbilt option, they gave students the choice, right? Like they could do it on their desktop or they could use the headset. So it was kind of learner preference there.
Right. They had a set of 10 headsets that the students could check in and check out. Plus a few of the students had their own headsets as well. But the beauty of using CenarioVR, wherever they want to take it, that's where they can take it. They don't have to publish it differently. The same exact content works on the headset and works on the web and on phones and tablets.
Yeah. It looks like those are all the questions we have right now. I'll give everyone like a minute if they want to put in their last minute questions, because everyone always comes up with a question after I say we're done with questions. So I like to give a second for the slow typers out there. But otherwise, John and Adam, thank you so much for joining us today. These examples were really inspiring. I think they gave people a lot of creative ideas for ways to incorporate VR or immersive elements into their training. We will be sending this recording out to everyone via email, and we will, of course, include a link to, question came in. John, what can you tell us about the use of XAPI in VR? What can you do with that? What kind of things can you track?
So VR gives you a lot more data points than you're going to get in a normal conventional course. And so XAPI is very well suited towards it, right? So you can get very detailed information. Again, going back to the CenarioVR example, it is natively XAPI. So everything that is done inside of it is tracked via XAPI. Every click, every interaction, every question, the time to do things, how long does it take to answer questions? How long does it take to be how long are you in scenes? We even have custom XAPI statements. So everything you do in a variable, we record that as an XAPI statement and send it through, so you can report on those. So lots of customers are gauging I'm getting there. Eye movement. I was really on that sentence. Gauging eye movement. No, we do not track eyes within the headset itself. But we track every interaction with it. We just don't have a way to track eye movement. But yes, we definitely track all that, and we have an entire analytics dashboard built in that we gauge it all for you.
All right. See, I knew that if I waited long enough, another question would come in. Now, I will be sending out the recording in the email, as I said, and I will include a link to learn more about CenarioVR and a link to the Future House website. So if you want to look at some more of the projects that Adam and his team have built, you can check those out as well. Otherwise, thank you to our awesome presenters, and thank you to all of you for joining us this afternoon. We love the opportunity to talk to you, share about these cool technologies, and just inspire everyone to create better learning experiences.